Good morning. Welcome to Agape Development's 2020 virtual fall breakfast gathering. Thank you so much for tuning in to see this wonderful program and for supporting Agape Development. My name is Sion Rhodes, anchor and reporter for KPRC Channel 2 News, and it is my pleasure and honor to serve as MC for this fabulous event this morning. We do have a wonderful program in store for you, and we want to kick it off with a very special welcome message from Kirk Craig, Executive Director and co-founder of Agape Development.
Thank you so much for joining us today for our Fall 2020 virtual breakfast. Wherever you are and whenever you're watching this, thanks for spending some time with us today. I'd like to thank our event committee, Alan Yetterberg and Lori Johnson, Mike Moody and Carter Bechtol for helping to plan this, and all the event sponsors. Without your help, we could not be putting this on. We're really excited about what's happening in Agape and hope you really learn about that today from our program. Now, sit back and relax. You may be at the beginning of your breakfast or middle or end. And my family, we bless by saying, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name." And let me pray to start our event. Lord Jesus, we are so grateful. You invited us into your family to be a part of your work in this world and in this neighborhood particularly. I pray that the words today, the stories that are shared would put us on the path to keep doing that work well and honor you and glorify you in the way we live our lives. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen. Enjoy our program today.
On the south edge of 3rd Ward, there's a little neighborhood called OST South Union. South of Griggs Road is located a neighborhood of about 10,000 residents who live in 3 census tracts. It is a tri-ethnic community with goodness and brokenness all around. In our community, we have a lot of unemployment and poverty. We have a lot of families that have split up, places where people dump trash and do drugs. Lots of families move away to get out. But there are always signs of God's goodness, signs that God's work is here. That is in the form of Agape Development.
At Agape Development.
At Agape Development.
At Agape Development.
Our mission is to transform our neighborhood
by preparing
Christ-following, independent
community leaders.
Founders Kirk and Amanda Craig moved into the community because neighborhood transformation is an inside process. But not just them. Since 2005, more than 20 different staff families have made their homes in the 77021 zip code to be neighbors as well as ministers. And not just staff, but dozens of neighbors living in the community have joined as volunteers and participants in this transformation effort. At Agape, we believe transformation is only possible through the life and message of Jesus Christ, so we are always preaching the gospel. Sometimes the gospel looks like playing basketball with a child in the after-school program, teaching a teen about chemistry, sharing a meal with the mom, or picking up trash in the neighborhood. Sometimes the gospel looks like telling the story of Jesus and his redemptive love in Easter chapels, at teen camp crosstalks, or young adults retreats, and in bi-weekly Bible studies as one-on-one discipleship. At Agape, we are unapologetic about the gospel because we've seen what Jesus can do to heal traumatic childhood experiences, to change hard hearts, to make bold witnesses. God has created everyone with gifts, talents, and personality intended for meaningful work. At Agape Development, we believe work is good and neighborhoods thrive when neighbors work and gain greater financial independence. The developmental tasks vary by age, along with the path to independence. Children's reading levels will take priority in one program, while youth entrepreneurship and employment teach necessary skills to teens. Young adults are launching out on their own for the first time, and every adult must find family-sustaining employment. Managing money and planning for the future are essential skills because our neighbors want to be givers and supporters and legacy changers. Our social enterprises employ residents needing a second chance. They're making a comeback from addiction, from long stints of unemployment, from incarceration, and they stay in their rightful places as fathers, providers, husbands, and community resources. At Agape Development, the transformation process comes full circle when neighborly, Christ-following, financially independent adults make the conscious choice to stay in the community and reinvest their blessings, their seeds of transformation sown back into the neighborhood. That's when a community starts to self-source its volunteers. Neighborhood coaches, homegrown tutors, local mentors, neighbors as board members, cleanup days, and community picnics, all led, powered by the neighborhood leaders. At Agape Development, affordable housing is key to retaining community leaders in a rapidly developing and gentrifying part of Houston. The renters, and especially low-income renters, are vulnerable to displacement from OST South Union, and Agape Development is working to reduce, if not eliminate, that from happening.
Thank you so much, Kirk, for your warm welcome and prayer. Now, before we get further into our program, there are a few items, sponsors, and people that I'd like to highlight. During the breakfast, you will have an opportunity to bid on the following auction items, so pay very close attention. A lot of great things out there, including the Great Escape Getaway. If you're looking for a quick getaway close to home, the Great Escape Getaway auction item in McQueeney, Texas, is perfect for you, family, and your friends. Enjoy a long weekend getaway in a 5-bedroom home with a pool, extensive outdoor living, and amazing views. Close drive to New Braunfels and Green with great restaurants and music venues. The weekend includes an evening boat cruise on the lake. Our next item is for you to dazzle in love with this 3-diamond and 14-karat yellow gold adjustable and linked necklace from Andrea Montgomery Designs. Andrea Montgomery Designs embodies elegant simplicity. The jewelry is sophisticated, yet wearable, and their uniqueness affords them great versatility. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you get out your phones, start bidding, get ready to bid. You can click on the link in the chat or visit www.agapedevelopment.org to start bidding. The auction will close tonight at 11:59 p.m., so you've got plenty of time to participate. We'd like to give a big thank you now to our sponsors. This breakfast could not be possible without all of our amazing sponsors today. And I'd like to start with our gold sponsors: Cornerstone Home Lending, Newmark Homes, Perry Homes Foundation, Stanmore Partners. Our silver sponsors: Janet and Brad Childers, Carrizo Oil and Gas Incorporated, and Chip Johnson, Frost Bank, Janice and Eric Teskey, Newmark Knight Frank, Envoy Mortgage, Trustmark National Bank, Yetterberg Deary Null LLP. Our bronze sponsors: Andrea and Paul Stewart, Caroline and Larry Hurd, the Community Bank of Texas, the Go Below family, JLL Jones Lang LaSalle Incorporated, Sue and Gil Baumgarten, and 100 Times Harvest Incorporated. Please join us in sending a very special thank you to the 2020 Virtual Fall Breakfast Gathering sponsors.
Thank you for supporting Agape.
Thank you for supporting Agape. Thank you for supporting Agape.
Thank you for supporting Agape.
Thank you for supporting Agape.
As we prepare to introduce our guest speaker of the morning, I'd like to highlight Agape Development's fundraising goal for this breakfast and the ways that you can contribute to help them reach their goal. The goal for this breakfast is $200,000. Currently, we're at $108,610. You can donate by visiting www.agapedevelopment.org to help Agape Development reach their goal. We are getting ready to bring out our guest speaker, but before I do, I'd like to introduce and thank the chairman of the 2020 Virtual Fall Fundraiser Breakfast Gathering, Carter Bechtol, Agape Development Board Member and partner at Stanmore Partners, and Mike Moody, Agape Development Board Member and CEO of Newmark Homes and the Event Committee. All right, now let's welcome our guest speaker, Jim Wehner, President of Focus Strategies Community. Jim joined the FCS team in September 2008 as the Executive Director of the Caris Community Housing, the housing arm of Focus Community Strategies. In January 2014, Jim accepted the role of President at FCS as the founder, Bob Lupton, stepped toward retirement. With experience in for-profit and nonprofit sectors, Jim brings a balance of ministry experience and business skills to this nonprofit community development organization. Prior to joining the FCS team, Jim spent 9 years as the lead pastor of Common Ground Fellowship, a participating member of the Evangelical Free Church of America, and approximately 9 years in retail sales and management with Recreational Equipment Incorporated, known as REI. In his role with FCS, Jim serves as lead trainer and speaker for FCS through the Lupton Center. He has led and participated in multiple seminars, workshops, and conferences, speaking on the themes of holistic neighborhood development, responsible charity, affordable housing, and neighborhood dynamics of redevelopment. Jim supports multiple organizations at the board level, assisting them as they develop thinking and best practices around organizational structure, board governance, team development, mixed income housing, and strategic planning. Jim and his wife, Jolynn, have 4 children. They have lived in the Atlanta area since 1995 and currently reside in historic South Atlanta. Jim is an avid runner and tennis player and loves Mexican food. Please help me welcome Jim Wehner.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here this morning. 42 years ago in Atlanta, Bob Lupton started a work in the neighborhood of Grant Park. He began working with young men coming out of the juvenile justice system, doing what a lot of us would do, trying to find a way to make things better as they reintegrated into the community. As he did that, as he experienced that work, he began recognizing that working with the young men, he also needed to work with their families. And as he began to get to know the families, he recognized that he needed to be in closer proximity. So he actually moved into the community, and he began thinking about his work on a community level, not just on a human level. And so that started a set of wheels in motion for FCS 42 years ago that continues today in Atlanta. So our work in the neighborhood is focused on what we would call development versus relief or betterment. And it's built on the idea, Bob began to think about what if our solutions to poverty are actually not producing the results that we hope they would. And as he began to think about that, he began anecdotally with the work he was doing to recognize that solving poverty wasn't just a matter of more and more material goods given away, that there needed to be development that was happening. And so FCS began to progress into what we now call community development. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, it wasn't a term that people knew, but now it's happening around the U.S., and you have a gem of a community development organization here with Agape. And so what we know now, data is proving out what Bob understood anecdotally. So we know that one of the most important data points for you and I that talks about how we flourish or don't flourish in life is our zip code. So your zip code helps determine, or we can say, if we know your zip code, how your life may look. And social scientists across the US know this to be true. We also know that poverty in itself is intimately connected with geography. And this is because of the way we do housing. Not only in the US, but across the West and across the developed world, we segregate poverty into community. And this community, which Bob was learning, has gravitational pull. And so those truths, this idea that maybe the solution to poverty isn't people-based, it's place-based. It's connected to geography, means that our programs need to begin to work within that idea as well. So FCS began to morph. And over the years, now we're in our 5th neighborhood in Atlanta. We began to, as an organization, focus in 3 areas. That first area being neighborhood engagement. So these are the traditional programs that you might expect. This is our education. We're doing youth development. We're working with families, financial literacy, all these things that have sort of become normal in this area of poverty. But we've added to that components that are specifically in this development arena. So we add mixed income housing, which is what we're here to sort of highlight today for Agape. And we add economic development, meaning jobs and small businesses that have left neighborhoods because they couldn't survive. And so this is what FCS has been doing for 42 years, 5 neighborhoods. And in our current neighborhood, we're looking at a neighborhood that has transitioned now with hundreds of units of affordable housing from 90% rental to 60% homeownership. And a full half of that homeownership is owned by our low-income neighbors. So as neighborhood changes and improves, and I'll use the word gentrifies, as structures are, city structures are adding to neighborhood and then neighborhoods lifting, the neighbors that now own their homes get the benefit of participating in that versus having gentrification happen over and atop them. So you see on this slide a good bit of housing, a lot of jobs provided. And so what is sort of uncommon in the nonprofit world feels very common to us at FCS. And in our partnership with Agape now 5 years long, we're so excited about changes that, or not even changes, things Agape's adding to their programs that will strengthen community. So for us, it looks like this. It's a smattering of housing that helps families along a full continuum. It's both rental and homeownership with a focus towards homeownership because there's a wealth building piece in that. We're really passionate about what this has done in our neighborhood. And just to show you a little bit, this is the neighborhood. You see this little blue outline. If you've ever been to Atlanta, you fly into the airport from Houston and you're down in that bottom left, that little blue dot with the plane in it. And we're literally about 8 minutes from the airport. We're on the south part of the city of Atlanta. So our neighborhood is shaped like this. It is about a square mile, 3,000 people in our neighborhood. We have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school in our neighborhood. But one of the interesting things is this is what our mission looks like as it's borne out. The green on this map is our schools and school system. But all these other little parcels are housing that's been developed as part of that work along that housing continuum, so that we have families now that will stay in our community as changes and growth happen in the urban core, which is happening all over the U.S. And so we have good partners. We happen to be the home of Habitat for Humanity, the corporate headquarters, and they're a great partner to us. They've done 50 houses in our neighborhood over the last 10, 12 years. We have the green on this, show you what we call our workforce. So these are homeowners of houses that we've developed or built. And those are split between what we would call affordable and workforce. And then we have the light blue, which is rentals. We continue to keep affordable rentals in our neighborhood. This is what we call community development. And I'm excited to share with you that Kirk and the team at Agape have laid groundwork for you to have a neighborhood here in Houston that looks just like this. And you'll see those maps a little bit later. But think about what it means to have families in those neighborhoods begin to have stable housing as they're trying to work toward flourishing just like you and I do. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for including me. Just a huge 2 thumbs up to Agape and the team.
Jim, thank you so much for sharing your insights on gentrification and community capacity and ministry. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Director of Housing and Community Development Department at the City of Houston, Tom McCaslin. Since July of 2016, Tom McCaslin has led the City of Houston's Housing and Community Development Department in its mission to ensure that every Houstonian has a safe, affordable home to live in and a neighborhood where they can thrive. Over the last decade, Director McCaslin has implemented a policy to ensure transparency and public accountability, prioritizing affordable housing funds for Houston's neediest residents, such as homeless school children, homeless veterans, and seniors living in poverty. With the added responsibility of more than $1 billion in federal housing recovery assistance, he has committed himself and his team of more than 160 employees to making a better city for all Houstonians and building forward in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. Director McCaslin received his bachelor's degree from Hobb Sound Bible College, a master's degree from Baylor University, and a doctor of jurisprudence from Yale Law School. He's an avid cyclist, runner, and public transit rider. Please welcome Tom McCaslin.
Good morning. It's good to be at the Agape Development Fall Breakfast Gathering. At the Housing and Community Development Department, we envision a city where every resident has a home they can afford in a community where they can thrive. We know that Houston faces challenges, including segregated neighborhoods, communities intentionally disinvested in, and institutional racism that disadvantages households and neighborhoods of color. At the Housing Department, after acknowledging these problems, we are working to change that history by providing affordable home ownership and rental opportunities to families at all income levels. We know that our city faces an uncertain future as long as our workforce faces both stagnating wages and escalating housing costs. This is the single most important fact driving our current housing crisis. To address the need, we are working with nonprofit organizations like Agape Development dedicated to building affordable homes. We are providing $30,000 of down payment assistance to home buyers and subsidizing up to $100,000 for homes within the Houston Community Land Trust, a new model of ownership that provides starter homes at prices as low as $75,000. Housing is personal for me. I grew up below the poverty line in 2 to 3 bedroom homes with 8 siblings sleeping on the couch. I know firsthand that stable, quality housing is key to ending intergenerational poverty, caused in part by systemic biases. Organizations like Agape Development are exactly the kind of organization we want to partner with. They work and live in a specific neighborhood. The staff prioritize the individuals who will live in the homes they build, and they listen to these future homeowners even before designing the homes. And finally, they get the work done. The quality of the homes they build speak for themselves and for the passion the Agape Development team has for the work. Thank you for partnering with us to make Houston a city where every resident has an affordable place they can call home.
Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us this morning. Right now, it's time to get an update on our fundraising efforts. Let's check in and see where we are towards our $200,000 goal for this morning. And right now, we're at $164,160. We're inching so close to filling that thermometer. So please continue to give. And don't forget, you can bid on our silent auction items at www.agapedevelopment.org. Now it's time for our guest speaker, Jim Wehner, and Kirk Craig, Executive Director and co-founder of Agape Development, to answer a few questions that some of our audience members have in the live chat. Guys, over to you.
Great. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
So I think one of the things people want to know is when you drive around our neighborhood and see what's there, and think about the Atlanta context, what encourages you or what signs do you see about where Agape is headed?
Yeah, there's a couple things specifically that I would comment on. First of all, it's just the team at Agape. So the team is built up of a combination of folks who live in the neighborhood. And at FCS, we would say proximity changes how we answer questions. We think often when we're trying to solve issues around poverty and neighborhood dynamics that we're coming in from outside with solution, but proximity changes. And I would say it changes how you solve, right? It's inclusive of neighbor. And I would say that's the number one thing that I get most excited about as we drove around yesterday, and good to spend time with your team again. Also, there are signs of readiness. So underneath what you're doing is a map of parcels that you now own. So you're able to envision how would we develop these properties to be affordable, winsome, healthy, sustainable housing for our neighbors. And that to me is true development versus relief, right? You're not, you don't pull anybody out of poverty by giving them a house, but by moving them towards home ownership, healthy rental into home ownership, you give them a pathway to flourishing and wealth creation that in terms of where our nation is on conversations of justice, social justice, and equity, the plans are in place, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to have a partner like FCS because we're comparing how are we doing at this time and where are we in our progress with the neighborhood. Yes. What did you think, as we talked about the lots and stuff that Agape owns, and there's a map here, kind of OST South Union has several different subdivisions within it, and we're focused on one grand park that I have up here on the map, and the parcels that we own, the green spots where our ministry buildings are. Any thoughts about where we are in relative progress with that?
Yeah, I think you're in a great place. So one of the realities of doing healthy housing work includes this hard work of acquisition and development. So for those of you in the real estate world that's your profession, you know and understand what it means to sort of control a lot by ownership that allows you then to begin to do the work of healthy development. And so Agape has done that hard work of thinking through neighborhoods. So with the map that's in front of you, you can begin to think block by block. So one of the stories that we tell often is in neighborhoods like this, when you have vacancy and when you have blight right next to, so you have a family living in a house and the houses around that family are blighted and vacant, it adds vulnerability to their life. And so you are not just helping one family. This is where it comes to thinking about place, not just about people. It's both and, but being able to think about place will really allow you to move into a place of seeing the whole neighborhood lift.
I think one of the questions that folks have are, a lot of people support us and have believed in us for a long time and are joining us today and want to know, how can I be involved? Especially there's folks that buy in but don't live in the neighborhood. What would you say to that? I think there's just the people of God,
Yes.
other partners. What would you say from FCS's experience as you look at Agape, ways for folks who might not live in the neighborhood, the best way to have impact there?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I would say this will be a little bit counterintuitive to those who are listening today, and that is Agape, as you move into this development, you're going to need more of what we call technical volunteers. So you're going to need volunteers that can help in the development and creation of housing. And so there are some of you watching today, participating today, that may have technical expertise, legal, real estate, maybe an agent or a developer, construction. Those kind of things become more important because they're all expensive. And when we're creating affordable housing, our margins are thin. And so any help that we can get is important. So I would say one of the ways that people could help would be development. And here's another thing is a lot of times we're used to doing volunteer projects in neighborhood, and our neighborhood has asked us not to do that. Our neighborhood has said we can care for our own neighborhood. So we think neighborhood first when we're thinking about volunteers and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We want volunteers to know if the neighborhood can solve the problem, we want the neighborhood to do that, not just our volunteers. So that's what I mean by the counterintuitive part. So with that, though, if you really want to understand and see this type of transformation, you need to go and see it. So I think Kirk and team would be excited for the opportunity for some of you that haven't been down to the neighborhood or haven't been lately to the neighborhood. After seeing some of what you're seeing today, I would encourage you, make the contact, send the email, get it on your calendar, share a coffee with Kirk while he drives you around the neighborhood, and it will change how you think about nonprofit work in general, and you'll see the power of development in a community lifting a whole community.
Yeah. And if you do come down, one little thing that's happened new for us is that we bought a motel. I feel like I'm in that movie, We Bought a Zoo. We bought a motel. So maybe we'll have some great stories there. But it's true. Those of you who haven't been in a while, a lot is changing. And so we'd love to have you come down and see that. Jim, kind of lastly, one of the questions is, kind of big picture, you talk to a lot of organizations and have been around a long time in what you're doing. Looking towards the future, where are things going with respect to equity, neighborhoods, and how we do better as communities, as a nation, as the people of God? Where do you see that going, and what would you share with us?
Yeah, well, one of the things, especially in the world of pandemic, where we're now doing virtual, what we would usually do in person. And you add to that sort of the tensions around social justice and race and conversations that are happening all around the U.S. and, in fact, around the world. I will tell you that Agape is not new to those conversations. When you're doing community development, race and equity and justice, and those conversations have been happening for years at Agape and FCS. And I would tell you, I don't think that conversation's going away. So we need organizations like Agape that can lead the way in how we navigate, especially for those of us in the church. Like it or not, I don't think I'm saying something that will surprise people, but our churches tend to be fairly segregated by race. And so having organizations like Agape that cross those boundaries and help us, so there's a point at which leaders at Agape could even come help churches with conversation and that kind of thing. So I think that idea is going to be with us for a while, and we're going to be working through this pandemic. Beyond that, I think you're going to see more and more data that is showing that solutions to poverty are as much about place as they are about individuals and people. And we need good programming for individuals, but we have to change community. So when you bring a community up, you see schools improve, you see business options improve around the neighborhood, which means more jobs. You see more health in the neighborhood, healthy outcomes. You see healthier food. There are all sorts of things that you see by lifting a neighborhood like this. And so I think that data is going to continue to bear that out, and we'll see more and more of that.
That's great. Thank you, Jim. Thanks for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for you guys.
Yeah, awesome.
Jim and Kirk, thank you so much. Agape Development's mission is to transform its neighborhood by preparing Christ-following independent community leaders. At this time, we'd like to share with you Joe's story.
You know, I could have did a lot better, man. Those choices that you make, you know, early in life, when you think about them as you get older, you kind of just wish you would have made different choices. I was a con artist. I was selling drugs, taking advantage of people that I knew, you know, that didn't have any common sense of what I was doing, as in taking advantage of their money, just taking people for granted. Not really treating the relationship as it should be treated. I knew about church, but you know, going about the guidelines, if you will, living like I'm supposed to live like a Christ-like following person, that was not the motive, not for me nor for my family. I didn't stop there. After that, I went to robbing. I got caught robbing. I got certified as an adult. I did a little time in jail. That for sure shook me up, because once I got out of jail, the transformation from jail in the streets, it was a drastic change. It was hard for me to adapt to the street life. At least 75% of the people that I know, we all joined that same type of lifestyle, which would be crime and thugging, cunning, or whatever. I just chose to roll with the wrong crew. I met Katina when I first got out of high school. A couple things changed. At the time, I still was a thug. So, you know, one more time, I got in trouble again. As far as our relationship, I was just a young boy. Couldn't be her provider, protector, you know, her confidant. I couldn't be none of that because, you know, I was still in search of what that was. We've been married now for about 2 years. First off, I just want to apologize to Katina, and that coming from a boy transitioning to a man, not learning how to love from a man to love a woman correctly. So I just ask you today just to work with me, and I'll work with you. Me and Katina, we reached out to Pastor Dave years ago, and we approached the marriage deal, but it just didn't work out. And one day, you know, my dad came in, he's just drenched in sweat, and I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Man, I'm working now, man. I'm like, Dad, you've been off work for quite a bit now. You sure that you want to go back to work? This is for you? Man, Joe, I want to tell you, son, Agape is where you need to be. They're going to give you a chance. Here's history now, you know. I'm on with Agape. My dad's still on with Agape. They assist him, you know, with all his health needs. And it is not only with him, it's trickling down to me because now I have my whole entire family involved with Agape. As of now, I have a full-time job for Agape property repair team. Right now, I just feel like my job options are limitless now. I have options to grow. Feel like I have an intimate relationship with God now, every day, each and every day, and not only for me, but for my whole family. Do you have a home church? Are you guys involved with anybody? Or if not, I got a place that I would like you to come over, come visit, come chat with some people, see if you like it. And if you like it, we'll go from there. Everything that is tied into it, you will love, I guarantee you.
Way to go!
Way to go,
Way to
Joe!
go, Joe!
Way to go, Joe. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Carter Bechtol. I'm a current Agape board member and member of the Housing Committee. My wife and I support Agape because we believe wholeheartedly in the holistic approach that Agape takes towards serving the OST South Union neighborhood. Agape is truly part of the community. They seek to not only serve God's people there, but also to meet the housing needs of the neighborhood. Quality, affordable housing is one of the biggest challenges we face as a nation today, and Agape is making home ownership a real possibility for many families that wouldn't have had that chance. I'm asking you this morning to give and give generously to Agape. Your support will enable them to continue to invest their time, their energy, and their resources in the neighbors that they've made and support the neighborhood to providing affordable housing to the neighborhood. So please, prayerfully consider a gift today. It will make a difference. Let's check in right now and see how we're doing with our fundraising goal.
All right, excellent. We are at $168,000, a little over that, so we're getting so close to our $200,000 goal. We do thank you so much for your support and your contributions and ask you to continue those. And please remember that the auction is still going on for our two really nice prizes that you guys can bid on. That's going on until 11:59 this evening. Before we come to a close, final words now from Agape Development's very own Executive Director, Kirk Craig.
Thank you. What a great morning it's been. You know, a year ago, none of us knew the world we'd be living in. When we started planning this event, it was a big in-person breakfast. We didn't know what was going to be happening. 22 years ago, when I went to the 3rd Ward OST community, I didn't know that this is where it would take me. When I went down to visit my then girlfriend, Amanda, I just didn't know where this was going to go. What comforts me, though, is that God has known. From before the foundation of the earth, He knew what was going to be happening, and He's not surprised, and He's not worried, and He's doing amazing things in this community and in our city. I love Houston. My phone here, I did this little custom background. It has all these teams. It even has old teams like Colt 45s from before I was born. I love this city. I didn't grow up in this neighborhood where we live now. I grew up in another part of town. And what encourages me and what the vision I hope is that we begin to see the whole city as our city. Not just my neighborhood or this neighborhood where you have good neighborhoods and bad neighborhoods, where we really see this as all of our city. These are all of our families. These are all of our children. The way God sees us, that we're all His. There's not a single one of us that's not important to Him. And so as you give, as you think about your life and beyond just Agape, I challenge you to think about this as all of our city. These are all of our children. And if there's a problem, it's our problem collectively. That's what Agape is working on. That's what our neighbors are working on. And so we're so excited, so grateful that you are joining us for this journey. And even though we don't know what next year will look like, we know who's in control. Thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you so much for joining us this morning for the 2020 virtual fall breakfast gathering. We hope you had a great time with us and learned a lot more about Agape Development and the incredible work that they are doing in the community. Thank you to Jim Wehner, Tom McCaslin, and the event committee, all of our sponsors, and all of you who tuned in. It's been a pleasure serving as your MC this morning. Please do not forget to support the auction and Agape Development in reaching their $200,000 fundraising goal. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Supporting Agape.
Thank you for supporting Agape. Yay!
Woo!
I've been waiting for you for so long. I've been waiting for so long for you to tell me what's wrong. Can you imagine? No, you don't. You and me are done. You were crazy, I didn't know it, but you were different, and I knew it. I loved it, I embraced it. Oh my God, I was crazy, you can imagine. Was afraid I'd give you my everything. You felt something new. You were scared to tell me how you love me and show me the devil in you. I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you for so long. I've been waiting for you for so long. You were asking for me, but you were playing alone, watching TV. No, just tell me what you fucking like. Big dreams, big projects, something amazing. Ambitions, you have it, you do nothing. I swear I thought I couldn't make it. Oh my God, I was crazy, you can imagine. Was afraid I'd give you my everything. You felt something new. You were scared to tell me how you love me and show me the devil in you. I've been waiting for you. Didn't tell me that you felt alone. I tried to help, but nobody was here, and it seemed like you didn't care. You wanted more, but you were with you. Only you, only you, only you. But you can't do it on your own. You Thank you.